Hi, welcome to the review. Today we want to look at an assertion that is really gaining relevance among the youths. And so this assertion is, if it does not make you happy, don't bother doing it. So this assertion tends to question the balance between happiness and suffering. Because, most things that makes you happy tend to come with evil consequences. Take for instance, you sleep a lot, you eat a lot, you're prone to obese. As a student, you sleep more than you read, you're prone to failing. You eat carelessly, you are obese, and then a lot of sickness comes to you. So you realize that most often than not, things that will make you happy centrally come with consequences, and the consequences are usually suffering in that form. So you see, you have a freedom to choose your line of action, but you do not have the freedom to choose the consequence. Because if you take an action, the consequence will come knocking, and the consequence comes exactly in the form of the action you have taken. So is life majorly happiness, or is life primarily suffering? You see, let's look at certain things. The fundamental dictum of the Buddhist is that life is suffering. So what's the central symbol of Christianity? The central symbol of Christianity is the cross. And what does cross signify? Suffering, betrayal. Islam believes or attributes the moral quality of suffering to human actions. In other words, according to Islam, everything else is under God's supervision, direct control. However, Islam believes that physical pain, sickness, and ailments are all common to human life. So centrally, life is about suffering. In fact, the fundamental or the ontological truth about life is that life is suffering. You cannot argue it at your risk, but tell yourself the truth. Most of the things you do to get better, you don't enjoy doing them, but you need to go through those pains in order for you to achieve. You see, we are finite, and there are other extremes, limitation that places us where we find ourselves. For example, we are certain amount of height, we are certain degree of attractiveness, we are certain degree of mental capacity, we are certain degree of height, we are certain degree of weight, we are certain degree of being funny, we are certain degree of a lot of things. However, and it is very funny, that to some people, these attributes or this limitation in these attributes make them let me put it this way. Some people attribute this limitation to vulnerability or flaws in their very own existence. And that is very, very poor, and that is very, very wrong. You see, understanding that our existence is predicated on certain limitation throw us automatically into suffering, because if we are limited, then we are bound to suffer, because limitation makes us not to be able to achieve certain things. Limitation makes us not to be able to go beyond certain boundaries until we struggle so much to break those limitations, we cannot go over those boundaries. And those struggles come alongside suffering. So I would put it this way: limitations provoke suffering. And so we are what we are, and we are not other things. Therefore, the awareness of the fact that human being comes with a limitation clearly lets us know that we will suffer. Otherwise, how would you conduct yourself in the face of suffering? How would you conduct yourself in the face of sickness? How would you conduct yourself in the face of pains? These are inescapable questions, since something terrible happens to everyone. So you would understand that you, as a human being, was ontologically designed to go through pains than happiness. So you suffer more than you are happy. The understanding of this puts you at rest, so that when events of life, when you're doing things, if you're a student, you should understand that what you are in school to do is to study. And to study comes with hard work. And if you must work hard, You must work hard in order for you to pass, because if you don't choose to pay the consequence, you will fail automatically. If you are a human being and you understand that well, you need to do exercise, you need to eat carefully in order for you to check your health and all of that, and you refuse, obesity will come knocking. And when obesity will come knocking, you don't choose the consequence, you will be sick, and eventually you will kiss the grave, and eventually you will die. And that is how it comes. So understand that life is more of suffering than happiness. Thanks.